15 years ago, I had what I thought was a perfect life. I was 18 in my senior year of high school and had everything lined up just the way I imagined. I lived with my parents and my four siblings in our family home, spent most of my free time with my best friend Ashley, and was madly in love with my boyfriend of 3 years, Kyle. Ashley and I had been inseparable since we were babies. Our parents were best friends, so we practically grew up in each other's houses. Holidays, birthdays, random Friday nights, if you saw one of us, the other wasn't far behind. She was more than a best friend. She was like my sister, my safe space. Then there was Kyle. He wasn't just my high school boyfriend, he was my future. We had been together since I was 15 and he was 17, and I truly believed he was my soulmate. We'd talk about our future together, how we'd get married after he finished college, maybe settle down in town, build a life together. My parents adored him, and I was sure he was the one. Our families were close, so close, in fact, that my older sister was dating Kyle's older brother. It was like everything had fallen perfectly into place, as if the universe had designed our lives to be intertwined forever. I had my plans. I was going to college, but I was also excited about the idea of being a wife and a mom. I was young, naive maybe, but I was happy. Then, in the fall of my senior year, things started to shift. Ashley became distant, moody, unlike herself. When I finally got her to talk, she broke down and admitted she was pregnant. I was shocked, but more than anything, I wanted to be there for her. She refused to say who the father was, just vaguely hinted that it was her ex. That was enough for me. She needed me, and I wasn't going to let her go through this alone. So I was there. Every doctor's visit, every late-night breakdown, every moment she needed a friend. I helped her pick baby names, set up the nursery, and even signed up for parenting classes with her. I thought I was being the best friend she needed. I thought I was doing the right thing. But I had no idea that everything I believed in was about to shatter. The truth hit me like a freight train, knocking the air from my lungs. It happened on an ordinary evening, just weeks before Ashley's due date. I had gone to the mall to run some errands when I ran into her ex-boyfriend, the one I had assumed was the father of her baby. Seeing him stirred up all the emotions I'd been carrying, the anger at how he had abandoned her. Without thinking, I confronted him, called him out for leaving Ashley pregnant and alone. But instead of guilt or regret, he just looked at me, confused. "She's pregnant?" he asked, his face twisted in disbelief. That stopped me cold. "She's 9 months pregnant," I shot back. But the moment the words left my mouth, a strange feeling crept in. His reaction wasn't that of a guilty man caught in a lie. It was of someone genuinely blindsided. Then came the words that ripped my entire world apart. "It's not mine. We broke up over a year ago. Maybe you should ask your friend Kyle." I laughed at first. It was ridiculous. Kyle? My Kyle, the man I had spent 3 years loving. The same Kyle who had held my hand, whispered about our future together, and made me believe in forever. There was no way. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That night, I casually mentioned the conversation to my little sister. She got quiet, too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, she excused herself and ran upstairs. I brushed it off and went to grab a snack. But as I reached the kitchen, I heard voices. My sister, crying. My mother trying to calm her down. And then, the words that changed everything. "I can't lie to her anymore. She deserves to know the truth. Kyle is the father of Ashley's baby. The world around me blurred. My ears rang. My legs felt like they weren't my own. I stumbled into the room, my mind refusing to process what I had just heard. Every single person in my life had known. My parents, my siblings, Kyle's family. They had all kept it from me. They had all decided that my pain, my betrayal, was something I didn't need to know. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I knew was that my entire life had just been ripped apart, and I would never be the same again. For 3 days, I barely moved. I stayed in my room, curled up in bed, my body too weak to function, my mind too broken to process what had happened. I ignored every call, every text from Kyle and Ashley. My family tiptoed around me, whispering apologies that felt empty, meaningless. My mother tried to justify it, saying they just wanted to protect me. Protect me? They had fed me lies while the people I loved the most betrayed me behind my back. Then, the final blow came. Ashley went into labor. I learned from my parents that it was a difficult birth, that she lost a lot of blood and had to have an emergency C-section. Kyle was there with her. Of course he was. He was the father. That should have been me in that delivery room, holding her hand, comforting her like I had promised. But instead, Kyle took my place, and everything I had done for her meant nothing. That night, I just wanted to disappear. I wanted my mom to hold me like she used to when I was little, to tell me it was all a nightmare. But instead, she came to my room and told me she and my dad were going to the hospital to support Ashley's parents. That was it. That was the moment my sadness turned into something else, something sharp, something uncontrollable. Rage. I begged her to stay, to not leave me alone. But she just looked at me and said, "Don't be selfish." Selfish? Me? I had given Ashley everything, my time, my love, my trust. I had built a future around Kyle, believed in him, in us. And now, I was the selfish one? As they walked out that door, something inside me snapped. I couldn't stay. Not in this house, not in this town, not in this life that had been built on lies. I packed a bag, my hands shaking with fury and heartbreak. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just knew I had to get out before the weight of everything crushed me completely. Then, as if to twist the knife deeper, my phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Ashley had a girl. They named her Sarah. Sarah, the name Ashley and I had picked together. I don't remember much after that. I just remember walking out the door, stepping onto a train, and leaving behind the only life I had ever known. I don't remember much about that train ride, just the sound of it rattling on the tracks, the blurred city lights passing by, the weight of everything pressing down on me like I could barely breathe. I had nowhere to go, no plan. I just needed to be anywhere but there. I ended up in Phoenix. It wasn't some grand decision. I just got off the train when it felt right. I checked into the cheapest hostel I could find, using the little money I had saved up from my part-time job. For the first time in my life, I was truly alone, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I got a job at a small convenience store, barely making enough to cover rent for a tiny shared room. I struggled. I didn't know how to handle bills, how to cook for myself, how to survive without the safety net of my family. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, questioning if I had made a mistake. Maybe I was selfish. Maybe I should have stayed and tried to work things out. But every time that thought crept in, I pictured Kyle in that delivery room, Ashley holding their baby, the baby I had helped prepare for, and I knew I could never go back. Then I met Dean. He worked at a nearby auto shop, and we kept running into each other at the corner diner. One night, I was sitting alone, picking at my food, lost in my thoughts, when he sat down across from me like we had been friends forever. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," he said. I didn't know what it was about him. Maybe the way he didn't push, didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. But for the first time in months, I didn't feel completely invisible. Dean understood what it was like to feel lost. He had his own complicated history with his family, his own wounds he didn't talk about much. But he never tried to fix me. He just stayed. Slowly, he became my lifeline. He introduced me to his group of friends, helped me find a better job, even taught me how to budget my money. He made me laugh again, something I hadn't done in what felt like forever. A year later, when he told me he was moving across the country and asked me to come with him, I hesitated. But then I thought about my past, about the pain, the betrayal, the people who had let me down. And for the first time in my life, I chose me. So I packed my bags, got on another train, and left my old life behind for good. Moving across the country with Dean felt reckless, impulsive, but it also felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't running from something. I was moving toward something new. A new city, a new life, a new version of myself that wasn't defined by betrayal and heartbreak. We struggled at first. Dean had some money saved up from an inheritance, but it wasn't much. He wanted to start his own business, and I was determined to stand on my own 2 feet. So I worked part-time jobs while figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't expect to fall in love with Dean. Not really. When we got married, it wasn't some fairy tale romance. It was a decision, a choice between 2 people who had been broken by life but still wanted to build something together. And we did. Dean worked his ass off to grow his company. I put myself through college, balancing classes with part-time jobs, refusing to rely on anyone ever again. By the time I graduated, his business had started to take off, and he asked me to work with him. It wasn't easy, but we built something together. Somewhere along the way, love grew. Not the naive, head over heels kind of love I had with Kyle, but something deeper, stronger. The kind of love that's built on trust and loyalty. The kind of love that doesn't disappear overnight. Years passed. Life moved on. We built a home. We had 2 beautiful sons. And for the longest time, I told myself I didn't need my old life. I had everything I ever needed right here. But then, last year, I got an email that cracked open a door I had sworn I'd keep shut forever. It was from a girl named Evelyn. "Hi, I don't know if you'll read this, but my name is Evelyn, and I'm your niece." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. A niece. I had a niece. A 14-year-old girl I had never met, who knew about me even though I had spent 15 years pretending my past didn't exist. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it and moved on. But I didn't. Because no matter how much I told myself I had left that life behind, a part of me was still waiting for a reason to look back.